All right, welcome everyone to Science in Action. Today is Tuesday, March 22nd. We are so excited to continue the Science in Action speaker series. This time we're actually inviting a student club from UC San Diego, the Triton Software Engineering Club. So excited to continue the speaker series. Without further ado, I just want to hand it off straight to the club members. Let's get it started.
All right. Hello, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Glad you all could join us today. My name is Emmanuel Flores. I'm a second-year computer science student at UC San Diego, and I currently serve as a product manager for the Laktaa team for Triton Software Engineering, which is the club that we'll be presenting on behalf of today. I'm joined by three other great members.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Rickie. I'm a third year here at University of San Diego, University of California, San Diego, majoring in cognitive science, specialization in design and interaction with a minor in management science. I'm a UI UX designer for Triton Software Engineering. And yeah, great to see everyone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nirmal. I'm a third year computer science major at UC San Diego. And I'm an engineering manager for TSE on the Laktaa team, same as Emmanuel. So, yeah.
Hey, my name is Philip. I'm a second year computer science major at UCSD, and my role for TSC is a developer.
All right. Wait, Rick, can you go back one more slide? Awesome. So what is Triton Software Engineering? What is TSC? So we're an organization of engineers and designers, but most fundamentally problem solvers. And we offer pro bono technical and web development services for nonprofits. So Rickie, next slide. What does this mean? So by web development services, we primarily design and build out software projects in the form of web applications and mobile applications, and we give them to the nonprofits that we partner with for free, while trying to give our students practical experience that they could actually transfer over to industry. We really try to emulate industry standards as much as possible in the technology that we use, in the various methodologies that we employ, and also in the entire structure of our organization.
So this is our headcount breakdown. So basically, like, we have 10 exec board members, we have 7 engineering managers, 1 for each team. We have 4 product managers, 36 developers, 8 designers, and 9 test developers and test designers. And we'll kind of explain what that test means a little bit later on. But yeah, we're growing as an organization, and it's getting pretty big.
Yeah, so for a little about the team structure, the idea behind how we organize the teams is kind of to emulate teams in industry as much as possible. So to start us off, management on a team usually consists of 1 engineering manager and 1 product manager. And for the design team is about 1 to 2 designers. And then that's followed by 5 to 6 developers.
All right, so you might be wondering what this looks like to go from a client's sort of high-level needs, and by client, I mean the nonprofits that we partner with. So how do we go from their high-level needs to a tangible, usable product that they can actually use on a day-to-day basis? And so that process begins with our onboarding, in which there's an initial preliminary client meeting where we sort of figure out what the problem is that they're trying to solve, sort of define it formally. And that's also where we explore possible solutions that TSE can actually provide. And once a solution is sort of agreed upon, it becomes a matter of converting that solution into a set of technical requirements, so we know sort of what product the client wants us to build out, and then converting that into a set of concrete features, which are then passed on to our design team.
Yeah, so after getting onboarded to the project as a designer, we first internally meet, the outreach members that were in contact with these nonprofit organizations, and we get briefed on what the nonprofit would like to see, what kind of project we envision it to be. And then after that, we actually are the ones who will be taking over the client meetings from then on out. So we will have a design introductory meeting with the clients at these nonprofit organizations. From there, we'll be hosting essentially weekly iteration meetings until we get the final prototype designed up. So every week we will meet with the client for usually it goes about 2 to 3 months period before even implementation, before even a single line of code is even written. So in these design meetings, we start from user flows and wireframes to low fidelity prototype all the way down to high fidelity prototype. And at the end of it, we pass off the design to the dev team, to product managers, to developers, and engineering managers, and basically offboard the design so the product managers and the development team can adequately implement the designs.
Yeah, so once we get these designs, internally we have a handoff meeting where designers kind of go over the design with the development team's engineering manager. And this meeting is kind of just to like go over like designs and what kind of needs to happen for this project. And then after manager kind of has an idea of what needs to be done, they'll come up with like an initial plan about how they want to implement the solution. And then after that, that's followed by a technical design review where we kind of go over their solution and find ways we could probably improve that. And then once that's all figured out, then we can actually move to development. So that's where obviously the things get implemented and features get like hashed out into like reality. And then sometimes at major milestones, we'll kind of like meet with the client with our current progress just to make sure that what we're doing follows their vision. And then at the conclusion of the project, so like once all their features have been implemented and it kind of is like to the client's specifications, we'll offboard this project to the client.
So then, yeah, so the final step is basically offboarding the project. So basically, we start with an internal offboarding meeting where we just meet with each other, the exec board, and we kind of make sure all the requirements are met and that it's ready to be deployed at the scale that the client wants. And then finally, we actually do the offboarding, deploying it, getting documentation ready for the client. And then we meet the client in a support meeting. We kind of make it clear to them, like, hey, if there are problems, if there are bugs, this is how you can reach out to us and how we will kind of maintain the app. This is what we're going to agree to in terms of maintaining it. And then the final thing is the training meeting where we basically go again with the client, kind of go over how to use the application, how to manage. So sometimes there's like an admin aspect to it, like how to manage the application and add to the database, whatever, create accounts, delete accounts, and that kind of thing.
All right, so that's sort of the overview of the entire product development process. But I'm sure you all want to see like the actual software products that we've completed. And so we're going to start off with some of our past projects that have been offboarded and already delivered to clients, starting off with the distribution web app. All right, so just a little bit about the client that we worked with here. Our client was Feeding San Diego, which is one of the leading hunger relief and food rescue organizations located in San Diego County. They're pretty large organizations, serving more than 40 million meals every year to underserved populations. And they came to us looking for a replacement to the system that they had in place, which involved a lot of intricate spreadsheets that was a bit hard to manage. They wanted us to build some sort of tool for them to better organize the information that they had on the agencies that they partnered with, as well as be able to visualize the distribution schedules for these various agencies so they could better coordinate them.
So for our solution, we ended up making a web app for them that allows their staff to basically go through, they have a database that they can maintain all the partners they work with. So for example, like churches and those kind of like organizations that help feed underserved populations. So they can like search through and update the data on them. They can manage the tasks they had, like for example, a food delivery to a church, and then visualize and then coordinate the distribution schedules through like a calendar. So one of the more challenging aspects of the application was developing a calendar for them to manage the schedule. And we're trying to emulate like kind of Outlook calendar or Google Calendar So they have a familiar interface. So here's like a slice of it in these screenshots. You can see like on the right is basically how, when you're making an agency, how do you plan out the distribution schedule for him? So you'd have like a map interface like that, like you see with the May 2021, and then you could just like pick the dates that you would do distribution on for that agency, and then set recurring things, that kind of thing. And then when that's implemented on the left, you save that, and then you see like for that agency, you could see events, and you could click on them. There'd be the option to delete the event. You could add notes to it, and yeah, basically manage the whole distribution just through the app, and it's a lot better than a spreadsheet.
All right, yeah, and moving on to a second project that we have offboarded. This project is the family literacy app. This was with a nonprofit organization in San Diego called Words Alive. Prior to the pandemic, Words Alive, they host live read aloud sessions and provide at-risk children and families with literacy services to help improve and promote literacy. So because of the pandemic, it was hard for them to deliver these resources to classrooms, to events. So they came to us asking for a solution. So we proposed to digitize all of their content, which included all the read aloud contents, and also arts and craft and activities that goes along with these reading materials that promote literacy. So we proposed to develop a mobile application that makes reading materials accessible to non-native English speaking families. And we also had a backend tool that supports this app that is going to be used by volunteers at Words Alive to help upload content onto the app and also engage with their community through the app.
So this is pretty much like the solution looks like. So yeah, on the left side, this is the web portal where volunteers like input their book content and activities. As you can see, some cool features we have in the top bar is analytics that'll let volunteers keep track of which books get clicks and views. And there's also a chat feature where volunteers can chat with people on the app if they have questions and whatnot. And in the middle, we have the app itself. This is what the user would see. They can click on a book, and within that view, there are tabs for a recording of the book being read out loud, as well as a tab for the activities that follow the book. And something cool that we had implemented for this app actually is it saves things offline. So most of the times these families don't usually have access to stable internet. So whenever they get the chance to go online, they can basically download these books and access them at home without internet. And yeah, so yeah, this app is on the App Store right now. So if you guys actually want to play around with it, it is live.
So another one of our projects was called UWEAST Community Kitchen. So UWEAST stands for United Women of East Africa. It's a nonprofit that's also local to San Diego that serves the needs of the East African community. So basically, our client, the United Women of East Africa, they provide health services, education, and advocacy for East African community, specifically women in San Diego, mostly in the City Heights area. And what they needed was sort of a website for their community kitchen, which is one of the services they have, where they have kind of traditional East African food, and they wanted to be able to display in a nice way, and then have customers not only view their items, but also order and pay completely online through their site. And so we provided them with a website that allows them to do this. So you guys, you can see on the left image, there's the menu items that customers can look at and browse. There's also, they have the ability to filter between appetizers, main dishes, whatever. And then when they click on it, they can add it to their cart and then actually go through and purchase it. Another aspect was when you have a store like this, you have to have the people who are the admins of the store or manage it be able to manage that store. So we had an admin portal where the site admins could view the orders, mark them as complete, track them, and then also add and remove items from the menu.
All right. Yeah, so those are a little bit about the past products that we've worked on. And now we're gonna dive a little bit into what each of our roles are on each of our respective teams. Starting off with the product management role. Now, this is definitely less of a technical role, more of a business side role. And from a very bird's eye level view, product managers oversee the realization of client needs. That seems pretty vague, but basically it comes down to answering two questions. What is the problem that the client is trying to solve? And what solution can TSE actually provide for them? And so some responsibilities of PM include meeting with clients on a weekly basis to convert their business needs into a set of technical requirements, and then converting those over into implementable features, which can be passed on to our design and development teams. Another part of being a project manager is ensuring that the client, the designers, the developers, the broader team is all on the same page in terms of what things need to be worked on, what things need to be prioritized. And a part of that is aligning the which features should be developed with what features the client is prioritizing most. So if some features can be pushed off to later versions, the documentation that we maintain will reflect that, and the development process will also reflect that. In addition, finally, product managers are responsible for maintaining documentation and updating the product roadmap throughout the development process. So if there's ever a time where the client sort of updates their needs, the development team, design team sort of need to adapt to that. And in addition, if during the development process, the dev team realizes that some features are not really technically feasible or might be a little bit too costly, we have to communicate that to the client and sort of reevaluate what this product looks like.
Okay, great. Now going into the designer role at TSE, the holistic definition is the designer oversees the design of the project. But it's a little bit more than that. I view designers as the bridge between the developer team and the client, with client iteration meetings that happen weekly. We often communicate the client's wants and needs by designing the interface, actualizing it, and prototyping it, so the rest of the developer team and product manager, engineering managers can see and have it be prototyped up. So yeah, we execute the design process and ideate the client's vision of the product. We collaborate closely with not only the clients, but also all the other roles throughout implementation, and we account for feasibility with all of our designs as well. So we not only work closely with product managers, but also developers and engineering managers to ensure feasibility of certain features, and just making sure that the interface is well designed and the end product is actually feasible. The design process that I've been talking about includes, but not only limit to, user flows, wireframing, prototyping, and user testing. And one cool project I'm currently working on is the League of Amazing Programmers. So the League is a nonprofit organization that teaches programming to kids from grades 5 to 12. Currently, we're collaborating with them by building an internal management tool for them to keep track of different students, classes, teachers, and volunteers within their organization. So us designers have been meeting with the client weekly, and actually with this project, we're coming at it with a sort of different approach. We're using Agile, which is basically designing and developing a minimal viable project first, minimal viable product first, and then pushing that out and then work on version 2 and version 3, sort of like updating and adding on to the interface. So right now, the current progress is we finished up the minimal viable project 1, which allows admins to add to the class and add teachers to the class, and also have teachers manage the availability. We're currently hard at work on version 2, which deals with student and parent account views. And yeah, we intend to have 3 versions in the future.
So my role is the engineering manager. I guess an overview of it is basically that we manage all the development and technical aspects of the project. And so our responsibilities kind of start with planning and architecting the technical implementation of the features. So like if a client wants, a map or some navigation or a calendar or whatever, how are we going to actually be able to implement that technically? So that's sort of the engineering manager's role, is to plan that out. And then when you actually are implementing these tasks, the engineering manager has to assign the task to developers. What is the developer working on this week? And make that very specific so they can work on it. And then when they do run into what we call blockers or issues where they can't make progress, we meet with them and help resolve that. And then we also explain to them any kind of task details that are unclear or that they're unsure about. And then finally, when the developer is ready to merge in the code, we review all that code. So basically, we review any code that's going to be actually put into the final project, and then make sure that that's up to TSE standards, that it's not breaking any other part of the project, and that it's completed all the requirements that were assigned for that task. So that's kind of the engineering manager's role.
All right, so I have the pleasure of working with Nirmal on the Laktaa team. So he serves as EM, I serve as the product manager. And just a little bit of an overview on who this nonprofit is. So Laktaa is a nonprofit logistics brokerage for rural Bhutan. They're specifically dedicated to helping local farmers with transporting their goods, because right now there's not like a solid infrastructure in place for these farmers to transfer their goods from place to place.
And then, so right now we're currently implementing the app. We made some pretty good progress so far. So in terms of the actual pages that the user sees, we completed the login, sign up, and then add and list job pages that allow a driver or a farmer to list jobs. And then we've also implemented the schema, which is basically like the plan or the architecture of how the backend is organized. So how is the data actually going to be organized in the database? So we completed that part. And then most of the backend routes, which is sort of like when you press, add job or delete job or whatever, there has to be some kind of function or route that handles that so that it actually reflects into the database. And we've completed most of those. And then we also have the initial authentication set up so users can create accounts and log in. And we're working on the password reset flow for that right now.
Yeah, so I could talk a little bit about the developer roles. So as a little overview, developers really do the dirty work of implementing the solution and turning designs into reality. So as you can imagine, a developer are the ones that actually write the code that make the solution work. So as a developer, responsibilities are attending weekly meetings with your engineering manager as well as your fellow developers. And during these meetings, you will be going over tasks for the week, maybe demos of what you've been doing for the past week. And you bring up any questions, blockers that you have in your work. And then outside of these meetings, you'll be collaborating with other developers on tasks as well as working on your own task. And then usually halfway between meetings, we'll have weekly updates where you post a message in Slack about how your work is going, if anything is blocking you, and yeah, just general updates such as that. And then another big role as a developer is reviewing and providing feedback to code of fellow developers. So this kind of goes with the role of the engineering manager, is to kind of ensure that your code is of top quality and that nothing will like break because of your changes. Yeah, so current project I'm working on is the Animal Pad Foster Dog Matching Project. So as a little overview, the Animal Pad is a nonprofit dog shelter that kind of aims to match dogs to fosters around San Diego area. And they came to us needing kind of like a solution to match fosters to dogs in a more streamlined way. So we kind of proposed a web application that'll do that for them. So kind of the idea is that a foster would apply on the web app and a volunteer on the other side would manually match these fosters to a dog they think would that fits their kind of like preferences and their situation. Yeah, and then this is the kind of like the one-stop shop where like fosters will communicate with volunteers and like bring up any like questions they have about what they need to do, and, like things about how to like take care of the dog. So for progress on this, we've finished the design process and it's already been offboarded to the development team. And we've already began implementing kind of like the core data models and the routes in the back end. And we have started on front end implementation for like the various admin pages, as well as the foster application page.
All right. So with all that being said, it might seem like, okay, you guys are doing a lot of work here, but what is the payoff? What are you guys gaining from this? And I can really break it down to two things. The first being that we get to really help support these nonprofits that maybe don't have access to more expensive technical resources. So it's really fulfilling being able to see like the software that you work on actually be used to support these organizations, which are often, you know, devoted to really noble causes. But in addition to that, because we try to emulate industry so closely, a lot of members of TSE are able to transfer the skills and the experience that they gain here, both technical and soft skills, to like internships, to co-ops, to even like full-time roles in industry. And also because of this, like TSE has like a ton of networking opportunities because of that. And so we're going to sort of go over a little bit about our past and future industry experience, just pretty briefly.
Yeah, I'll start it off. So last summer, I was working as a product design intern with the startup incubator team that was in collaboration with Bellwether Industries. They are an overseas company that focuses on urban air mobility travel. So our team was specifically tasked with urban path routing, developing and designing a software tool for that. TSE honestly has really helped me and prepared me for that because with the startup incubator, it was a very small, tight-knit team. I really had to engage with multiple different roles, just like how I am doing, engaging with different roles here at TSE with different developers, product managers, and such. So that has really prepared me for that startup. And this summer, I'll be going on as a platform design intern for 23andMe. And yeah, that'll be pretty exciting.
Oh yeah, for me, last summer I had the opportunity to be at SiriusXM on specifically their connected vehicle services division. And I would say TC has definitely prepared me for for hopping into that like straight out of like school. I think one of the big things is kind of like at TSC we have like the dynamic between like developers and managers, and that's also something that's there. I found there at like during my opportunity there, and you know, kind of like having to like work with another developer and like hashing out tasks, as well as like communicating with your engineer, with your manager, basically about like your progress and how you can get the project done in like the short amount of time that you have there. Yeah, and then this summer I'll be heading over to Strike.
Yeah, so last summer I interned at this medical software company called Cario. So I was on what's called the charts team. So I worked on basically all the aspects. It was like a web app, so it's all the aspects of the application that the doctor interacts with. So this is like software that you'd see used at like the doctor's office. And the medical software industry is kind of like interesting because doctors don't like their stuff changing, but at the same time, if you want to sell to new customers, it has to look cool. So it was a really weird combination of working on like legacy and old stuff while also working on new technologies. And I think TSE prepared me for both because like when I worked on the old stuff, it was like all this, it was new for me because I had never worked on with that kind of tech. And that was similar to like when I first joined TSE, I didn't have any web app experience. So I was like trying to learn everything and produce something for a real client. So that was challenging, but very rewarding. And then when I worked on the new stuff, TSE was awesome for that because it was just like I was in TSE again, working on just like a little bit more complicated and a lot more code to read. But yeah, that was a really great experience. And next summer, I'll be going over to Amazon in Seattle.
All right. So I am not as cool as these guys. I have not had a past internship, but this summer I am going to be interning at BD, which is a medical devices company. Very excited for that. I believe I'll be joining their intern team, helping them build out an internal tool to help them interface with a pharmaceuticals database. But that is pretty much all we have in terms of talking about industry experience. One thing that I did want to touch on, I know Brian actually brought this up, but I know many of you are in Skyline's like newly founded computer science club. And I just want to say massive kudos to y'all for taking the initiative to start something like that. So we're going to be entering our Q&A panel in a bit. So if you have any questions regarding like CS, landing an internship, like any advice regarding that, feel free to use the Slido link and send us questions through there. We'd be more than happy to answer them.
Wow. Thank you for such a detailed presentation on all that you guys do and all the hard work that you've put in so far. And congratulations to all of you for your past internships and your upcoming internships this summer. I'm not gonna lie, I'm looking at the Slido questions on the link. I did post it one more time for everyone in the chat. It's really kind of interesting, kind of like parsing these questions as it's almost like we're talking to industry professionals. It's really, really impressive the work that you all do. And so I want to start off at the very top, just encourage folks that's on the call to post their questions into the Slido link. And then if you see a question that you like, definitely upvote them and I'll try my best to address them all. We've got 14, so there's no shortage of questions to work through, but I'll do my best to streamline this. And so I want to start off with the very first one, the most upvoted question at the very top. We may have touched on this in the presentation, but I want to acknowledge that it's the most upvoted. How did you find or / pick projects to work on? Was that different when you were just getting started? And what advice do you have for new student orgs? So, like our newly founded computer science club, for example.
I can take this one, I guess. So we have a really spectacular outreach team, and they're the ones that are sort of doing all the promoting and marketing for TSE. We have a slide deck where we show off our project portfolio, and actually we're working on a really cool tool to sort of help streamline the entire process. So the people on our outreach / marketing team, they're the ones that are interacting with clients, but since we have sort of a bunch of clients that we've worked with in the past, we sort of get connections through them. So we're like, okay, would you recommend us to any other nonprofits that you guys know? And that's how we sort of expanding to new clients. Let's see what were the other parts of the question, Brian?
Any advice on picking or starting a project for some of the newer student orgs?
Oh yeah, and so it's as you get to, like a lot of the nonprofits that we partnered with, as you saw throughout the presentation, are really local to San Diego. So I'm sure there are a lot of local nonprofits that you guys could partner with initially, and then you could sort of leverage that in order to sort of expand out your network. So I'd say like to get started, it's really nice to just sort of start locally.
And maybe get an outreach team.
Yeah, outreach team helps a lot. They're amazing. They're amazing. Philip, Rickie, Nirmal, if you guys want to add anything, you can.
No, I think you covered it. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so then I'll go on to the next question. Again, the most upvoted with 6 questions. This one's from John. And so again, this is like that interconnectedness with, are we talking to industry professionals already or student club members? But the top question is, what are the current industry standard technologies that your club is using? And in your opinion, what makes them popular? And I'll post that into the chat.
I can kind of take this, I guess. So like, well, we for most of our projects, we try to keep it like kind of standard. We usually use like the MERN stack, which is, so, you know, we call it like a stack, which is like the kind of technology we use from all the way from the front end to the back end of the application. So like the MERN stack is like MongoDB, which is manages the database, right? So like, you know, where do you have your database? That's Mongo, and then Express, which is between the database and the front end, like how you actually have the routes that allow you to update and manage the database. And then you have React and Node. Node allows you to basically, I guess like the most basic explanation is like you can work on the back end and still use JavaScript, which is the same language that you're using on the front end. And then React is really awesome because we use it in pretty much like every project we have, because it's just like a front end library by Facebook that allows you to have HTML with your JavaScript. So you can basically, the main thing is that you can create components. So like your app is organized in these things called components, where you can kind of like drop them in anywhere. So if you have, you know, a lot of like apps have like this, you know, the same thing placed everywhere, right? So if you saw like the UWEAST website, it was like there's menu items, right? And each menu item is just like a picture, a price, and then like the title of the food, right? And if you want that everywhere, you don't have to like keep like duplicating that, right? So React allows you to just create what's called a component, which is like a general version of that. And you can just like give it parameters, which is like, hey, what is the name of that? What is the picture going to be? And what is the price going to be? And that makes it really easy to develop. It makes it really easy to work together. And when you're in a student org, people have their classes and time is kind of limited. React is one of the best ways to go. And then sometimes we do use other technologies like Postgres for the backend and those kind of things. But generally we stick to MERN, and you'll see that in industry, a lot of companies are using those. I guess one of the last thing I'll say on that's like one of the disadvantages is that like a lot of companies also use like old stuff. And sometimes they want that. You know, we aren't going to really work with that. But when you show that you have experience with this new stuff, you can definitely learn that old stuff, and they, you know, you'll just learn it kind of on the job sort of. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Nirmal kind of touched on this, but I think one of the biggest like benefits of MERN stack is it's straight JavaScript from front to back. So that's like super good for getting started if you're like a new dev, because all you need to learn is JavaScript. And once you know JavaScript, you have the capabilities to work on both the front end and the back end. And yeah, it just makes it easier to, if you're like working on multiple parts of the project, like you don't have to like context switch between syntax for like a different language for the front end and a different language for the back end. And I think like that's like one of the reasons why MERN stack is super popular, and definitely why we use it.
Yeah, and kind of switching gears, outside of you know, the technical portion of the project, for design, the designers use software tools such as Figma or Adobe XD. They're really powerful interface prototyping tools that really gets the design of the screen prototyped up, and even we can go down to the interactions of the let's say like a hamburger menu or a nav bar, it can get so even down to like that amount of detail. So those are really cool tools for us to use for designing interfaces. Also, we just need to be well versed in Adobe Creative Suite, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Sketch. I think those are all really important tools as well as a designer. So yeah, that will make you a successful product designer in the industry.
All right, thank you, thank you. So I'd like to move on with the next question. So this one's at the very top, and I see one a little bit further down that's related. So I'm going to ask them in conjunction. The top one, what are the most important classes that a computer science or computer engineering major should take and why? And the related one is related to like proof type CS courses, where you might have some proofs that you might need to do for your homework exercises or on exams. And so how important are those to your major or degree? And that's copied into the chat as well.
You guys want to split this? I feel like we all have like different views on this.
Maybe like one class per person or something. I can answer the second part of the question.
Yeah. I guess, okay, to keep it 100% real, a lot of classes that we've taken that are more like theoretical and stuff are not really useful for industry. Yeah. But I would say the classes that I've taken so far that have been the most useful has been the data structures class. Specifically, it's been useful in like sort of technical interviews type stuff. And also like it helps reinforce some like foundational CS principles that are actually applicable in industry. So definitely those data structure classes are awesome.
I guess I have a little bit of a different view on this because maybe I'm biased. I tutor the discrete math class, so I enjoy proofs, but I think that's those kind of discrete math is at least like the basic courses when you first start proofs are pretty important because the rest of your classes, because discrete math is the language of computer science, right? Like the rest of your classes are gonna be talking about these concepts in terms of this kind of like mathematical way of thinking about it, especially if you want to, especially want to go into areas of computer science that are a little bit, that are not just like web development, stuff like that. You want to go into AI, go into graphics. The discrete math and proofs are going to be pretty important, especially just understanding like how to talk about sets and things like that. You just want to get those basics down, and it'll help you for the rest of your major and your rest of your courses. So don't like put them off as like, oh, it's not that important, but at the same time, the best thing you can do is like practice things that are used in the industry for what kind of career you want. Yeah, and then I guess the most important course, in my opinion, was algorithms. I've seen it come up in every subsequent course. So whatever they call the algorithms class, that's going to be probably, in my opinion, the most important.
Yeah, I guess I could also speak a little about this. Yeah, kind of like what Emmanuel said. Definitely, I think data structures, algorithms for sure. Any course that kind of talks about, trade-offs between time complexity, space complexity of different like data structures and algorithms. That is super crucial, I feel like, because like after these courses, like you start to like think about this also in like implementation of solutions, even in TSE. Like, can I use a different data structure to make this thing faster, or can I change this algorithm to make this faster? And like those kind of things that you think about as a developer is like, I think it's super crucial. And obviously towards like more real world like opportunities like internships full time, they're gonna be like looking for that stuff and like interviews. And obviously like any good developer would, or as a good developer, you definitely want to have like the most efficient code, right? So I think those classes definitely are the most like practical that can be applied to like real world experience, but obviously like the theoretical stuff, like learning about like the mathematics behind it, I think is interesting also, but it can be tough. I'm not gonna lie.
Shameless plug in for math. The very first computer scientist was a mathematician. Just putting that out there. But going on with our next question at the very top with 5 upvotes. This one is our founding president of the Computer Science Club here at Skyline College, Alicia. And she asks, what are the best ways to strengthen your college application, especially for such a competitive major as CS? And how to be a strong candidate for internships, right? So maybe kind of think back on how you were able to get your past internships and your upcoming internship. What do you think is like the one thing that really separated you in the application pool? And that's in the chat as well.
Yeah, I can start it off with my past experiences with, applying to internships and jobs. I think the number one thing for me was to, take on these different projects, having as many projects as you want, like as you can under your belt, will really strengthen both your internship application and also your college application. College do want to see you, being proactive outside of classes to work on projects. That doesn't even necessarily need to be with other organizations. It could just be a passion project that you want to work on. So I think that's my biggest advice.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Rickie said. Projects, especially if you don't have any like prior work or internship experience. I will say though, like landing, if you're planning on landing multiple internships prior to starting a job in industry, the first one, and I'm sure Philip, Nirmal, Rickie, first one's always the hardest. But after you get that first one, you're able to leverage that experience, even leverage the network of people that you meet there in order to land more internships in the future. And the process gets a lot easier after you land that first one. But yeah, I guess to Rickie's points, to Rick, I would highly recommend like doing as many projects as you can, just for fun.
I guess the last thing I want to add, projects are super important for internships, but I guess for the college thing, I think prioritize excelling in your classes. I think for colleges that they definitely look at the projects too, but the classes are super important for them as well. So I guess prioritize that as well for colleges.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to move on to the next question with 4 upvotes. Just paste it into the chat, but how did you know that CS was right for you? Do you have any tips for dealing with overcoming and dealing with obstacles in your academic career, right? And joining such an impressive club like this, I'm sure that there's some level of imposter syndrome that we might have been dealing with jumping into these projects and collaborations. So any comments on how you overcome those like fears, trepidations, nerves?
I guess how do you know CS? I think I still don't know. Like it's I think with anything it's hard, and unless you're really lucky, it's hard to say like I absolutely love this and this is like I'm like God, made by God for this or whatever. It's at first I wanted to do chemistry, then I wanted to do law so I could be like my grandpa or whatever. Like I changed a lot, and I think with anything, this isn't just for CS, with anything in life, it's like just jump in and go for it. It's going to be scary and it's daunting, but once you take that first step, and then and once you kind of start to say I get it, it's really rewarding. You know, when I first joined TSE, it was pretty scary because I had no web development experience. I thought everybody else was like so much more experienced and smarter and more talented than me. But I think like after, you know, having the courage to kind of just say I'm going to take the first step and I'm going to try anyway, and I know I'm going to make mistakes. I did make a lot of mistakes. I think that it's super worth it in the end. And I promise that, you know, it'll turn out right as long as you are willing to take a little bit of risk, no matter what you do.
Okay. Yeah, I could chime in here as well. In terms of, let's see, dealing with obstacles and stuff. So I took a theory class this last quarter that absolutely obliterated my self-esteem. But yeah, it was a little rough. It was a little rough. But I guess what got me through it was like sort of the study group that I had there. They were super encouraging, and yeah, they were super helpful in helping me work through like different concepts that I was struggling with. Not gonna lie, they carried me through a lot of the homework assignments. But yeah, just like whenever I'm facing obstacles like that, it's helpful to have like a network of people that could sort of uplift you in those moments, especially people with the same major. And I guess to the point about like imposter syndrome, what I realized is like I was super intimidated by everyone because they seem super big brain. But then I started talking to all of them, and they're sort of in the same boat. They also sort of have that imposter syndrome. So you'll realize that like almost everyone feels like that same way. And it's honestly like, it's pretty relieving, pretty encouraging.
Yeah, kind of like what Emmanuel said. Touching on like kind of like obstacles. For me personally, definitely CS is like not easy at all. Like obviously there's gonna be things that make no sense to you, and how you kind of get over that is you just gotta like push through and know that there's like resources out there. Like Emmanuel said, like form a study group, like reach out to tutors, use office hours. Like all those resources that are available to you are like there to help you. So like don't be afraid to like use them. And I think those especially like study groups have definitely helped me get through to where I'm at right now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So I really appreciate all of you still on the call posting awesome questions. We still have a lot left, but I want to acknowledge the time that we have left. We have 5 minutes. And so maybe we'll just finish with this one last question, again, with 4 upvotes. We have the comment. It's very inspirational that the club strives to use software for social good and create a positive impact on society. And what was your favorite project and why? And that's also in the chat as well.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. Yeah, it's part of the reason why I wanted to join this club in the first place. I originally started out in product design by just helping local businesses in my community, and seeing my work being actualized in storefronts and making an impact in my community made me realize I do want to help more people. And yeah, with Triton software engineering, that's exactly what we do. So I think my favorite project I've worked on is definitely Words Alive. That was a very holistic process that went through the entire design process up to the point where development is rolling, and then finally the offboarding with the project being uploaded to the App Store. And yeah, it was just great seeing the community impact that we made with that project. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, pretty much what Rickie said. Like for me, also Words Alive, like seeing, I think that's actually Words Alive is actually the first project that I worked on that was like actually like like shipped out and like offboarded completely. Even though I worked on it for like only a quarter, I mean, it was still like amazing to see like something that contributed to actually like being out there in the world. People are using it, and like that was just a great feeling for me. Yeah, it just looks amazing. Props to Rickie for designing it and all the other designers. It just looks amazing, and yeah, it's done. It's just like it feels good to have like your work like making that impact on people's lives.
I'm also gonna say Words Alive. Actually, it's I'd say it's tied between Words Alive and Laktaa. Words Alive, what pretty much what Philip and Rickie said. I'm not gonna reiterate it. They explained it super well. But yeah, super proud of that project and what I was able to contribute. And then in terms of Laktaa, I guess because we're helping out a nonprofit in Bhutan, I think that's why it feels super impactful, because we're literally helping out a nonprofit in another country. And it's specifically a country that might not have like as many resources as some other nations. So it's nice being able to see like your impact, like not only your local area, but also areas outside the US even.
Last year, I was a developer on the Feeding San Diego project. I really like that because we got to work with an organization that's local, and it's also does a lot of great work. And also being a developer on the project, I got to do a lot of hands-on work and you know, work with cool technologies, learn a lot, and you know, develop a lot of the apps. So that was really fun, and it was fun to think about it. So I think that was my favorite to work on. And then right now I'm also working on Laktaa, and it's a really different experience, really fun. I like being able to, you know, being the manager is definitely very different. It's daunting because you have to be a bit of a leader, but it's still a great experience.
All right. So right on the dot, 5:30. Wanted to thank all of you, Emmanuel, Philip, Rickie, Nirmal, for spending this last hour with us, just sharing a little bit of insight on the inner workings of TSE, but also kind of spending some time responding to all of our wonderful questions from the audience today. I want to thank everyone on the call again once more for such awesome questions and upvoting a lot. That was wonderful to have. And then if you're watching this recording on YouTube, we host Science in Action every week, usually on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, 4:30 to 5:30. Link is in the description below. But thank you again for this last hour, your wisdom, your insight, your advice. Wonderful, wonderful stuff.